Hi, what's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about the stuff that's going on over at Donut Media with all the Subarus because I've been getting DMs from people asking if they can do X, Y, or Z with their Subarus. I know other companies have been getting calls from concerned people after seeing what Donut has shown on their two WRXs. If you guys haven't seen what's going on over there, they're doing another series of like high-low where they have two 06 WRXs, and it has been a show over there for them, to say the least. Now, you guys know, if you've been around the channel for a long time, Subarus is literally all I do. It's pretty much all Matt does also. I mean, he has a SRT4, which is pretty much just a bug-eyed WRX.
In like 10 years.
It's pretty much just a bug-eyed WRX. So, you guys know, I build short blocks, we build long blocks, we do engine replacements for people, we build Subaru race car type of deals, we do Subaru engine swaps, literally Subarus our lives, unfortunately and fortunately at the same time. Now, like I was saying, the stuff going on over at Donut right now is kind of a shit show and is putting Subaru in such a bad light. If you guys haven't seen what's going on over there and you go to some of their latest videos, you guys will see like 5,000, like there's like 8,000 comments last time I looked on their turbo. Yeah, there's a ton of comments on their turbo swap on their WRX one, and it's legit like 90% of people just saying how they'll never own a Subaru after seeing the series. They'll never buy one. They've always been shit cars, and
it's basically painting things in a bad light.
It's making them look awful, and they are literally not as bad. They're not bad at all. It's just this light that they've been portrayed in. And I watch Donut. I love Donut. I've been watching the videos for years. I like all the guys over there. They're all super chill. They're all super funny. However, it's like this one aspect. Like, you gotta remember, like, Subarus are all we do. So if there's just a mass exodus of people hating on these cars, I feel like we need to kind of step in and say something about it a little bit to shed some light on it.
So in the series, if you've noticed, Donut has already gone through like 4 or 5 engines, and they're on their 3rd car. And it's making a lot of people really just believe that Subarus, the moment you get them, blow up.
That's not true at all. Don't think that's true. It's not true at all. Now, in Donut's defense, they've openly said they don't know a lot about Subarus, which I totally get. Coming into a brand new platform that's totally different than what you've worked on versus like a V8, a V6, an inline engine. Flat engines can be scary or intimidating to look at and work. I promise Subarus are just like some of the easiest cars you'll ever work on once you actually start getting in there. So they have admitted they don't know a ton about these cars. However, they've still gone through 4 or 5 engines. And when you start going through that many engines, you have to take a step back and say, okay, it's not the car, we're doing something to cause these engine failures. There's obviously something happening that is inductive of causing these engines to fail.
Nobody's ever getting into what could possibly be causing these multiple issues back to back. And everyone's just going, oh, okay, so a WRX, you buy it and it'll blow up. And that's all you're gonna get out of it.
So let's start with the first engine failure that they saw on High Car, which was rod bearing failure. Now,
right off the bat.
That was right off they did tear the engine down. I'll give them that. They did tear the engine down. They found out it was rod bearing failure, but they didn't find out what caused the rod bearing failure, which sometimes it can be a little difficult to track that stuff down after your car's already blown up, but typically you can try to find something. Now, when Donut first got the two WRXs, they did state in there that they both had brand new refreshed short blocks and that they did not break them in. They got these brand new engines, they put them in the cars, and they pretty much immediately took them to the track, which I get it, okay? It's not 1980. Engines don't break in like they used to, but the entirety of breaking in an engine, you're setting the rings to the fresh hone in the cylinder walls, and you're getting out all of the potential contamination that might be in the engine. I don't know who rebuilt the engines. I don't know where they got the engines from. There's a factor of things that can contribute to a rod bearing failure. There's debris in the oil. There could have been metal chips still in the cylinder head that got into the oiling system when they did the rebuild from an improper cleaning. Bearing clearances could have been wildly off. There's a factor of things that can go into it, but regardless of the fact, if you have a fresh engine, you gotta at least do a couple oil changes on it, and at minimum, like I only do roughly 150 to 200 miles on my engine break-in, and I haven't had
you don't have to do a lot.
No, it's not a ton.
But you need to do it.
Yeah, it's still something you have to do.
They could have also, there's the aspect, we've had issues in building cars in the past of not building proper oil pressure. So if they didn't check that and they just turned the car on and started running it, I mean, you can have the oil pressure light off, but you can have other things going on.
I mean, if you start a fresh build with no oil pressure, you'll get oil pressure eventually.
Oh yeah.
It'll get there. But having that crank spin it on a brand new fresh build, probably 2,000 RPM, for even a couple seconds with no oil or no lubrication aside from maybe some assembly lube on the bearings.
Or let's say starting it up for the camera and then going, check it out, and revving it a bunch.
Also
maybe
a good
do
point.
a little bit of damage.
I get it. Donut's really good at the videos they do. They make really high quality content videos, and they're really good at making videos for that stuff. And what's happening with the Subaru series is they're playing into the whole Subaru stereotype thing. Like, Subarus blow up. They blow up all the time. And
each time it happens, they all they zoom in the camera on people's faces and they go, "It's a Subaru." And
it's not the case. It's 100% portraying Subarus in a bad light. And I know myself, there are companies, there are other shops who, but a lot of Subaru owners who feel the same way. Like, I've liked the high-low series with like the 350Zs, the Tacomas that they've done in the past.
All the other ones you've never really had any.
And I was excited when I saw they were doing a Subaru series, but then as they started to do it, it showed that they didn't do any research into the cars that they're building. With this series specifically, I'm not a 350Z owner anymore. I used to have 350Z. I'm not a Toyota Tacoma owner, so I don't know if those owners felt the same way as they were going through the high-low series. But watching the WRX series, like, they put TN coilovers on high car, calling those the high coilovers. That's not like the high quality of what you want to go for a Subaru. Like, that
hardly anyone runs.
No one uses those. For the turbo Garrett, nobody uses stock location Garrett.
Stock location Garrett.
If you're building a high car and you're putting the top dollar, top quality part on there, you're gonna use like an FP blue, an FP black, an FP green, a Blausch.
There's a lot of better options that could all come into play.
It's not
they just talk to somebody.
Yeah, if you would just talk to someone who's maybe a Subaru specialist and you're like, okay, these are the parts that we've been advised to use and this is what we should do. And this is another thing that kind of, it raised a little bit of a red flag for me, is in the last video of the turbo stuff, you can see in a couple frames when they were at someone's shop on high car, and the only reason I knew it was high car is because they had the parent turbo inlet on there, and low car had some like Samco orange one.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, they had a set of PLM TGV deletes on high car. Now, TGV deletes, you're not, especially in California, it's an EPA thing, so you're deleting an emissions requirement. But on top of that, later in that video, it shows that they're tuning with Cobb access ports, which back in March of this year, when Cobb announced their green speed thing, showed that you're not allowed to do that with Cobb tunes anymore. So it just raises a lot of red flags for me. Like,
how did they get around it?
How did you get around it? How much research did you actually do with this? And I could be wrong. Maybe they shot this series last year. I don't know, but I'm guessing that this was,
it could have been for their sake. It could have been
pre-green
before this
speed.
all happened, and this could have been way in the past and already over with.
I'm assuming that they shot these videos in June to August, and it just raises a lot of red flags. Like, if you go through, you spend an hour. You could go to any of the videos I have on my channel of how to make power on a Subaru, X, Y, or Z. It'll give you a full build list, a full sheet to make that amount of horsepower. Cut, copy, paste. Subarus have been around for a long time.
But that goes back to, they didn't have a defined plan. They didn't have a goal for how much horsepower they wanted to make. They just slapped on all these parts and then said, let's find out how much a dyno's at.
Well, the other thing especially with Subarus, like, Subarus are already temperamental cars. And the other thing that bothers me with this is it's giving people the connotation that putting crap parts on your car is okay. I saw comments in that video where people are...
Oh, the difference between the expensive and cheap turbo?
Yes, people are okay with spending $230 on a crap turbo that turbo is going to die on you. They said that they can't justify spending $2,300 on an expensive turbo.
It only made 80 more horsepower.
Yeah, but they'd rather spend $230 on the cheaper turbo, and that 80 horsepower wasn't enough just to justify it. Quality parts are going to last you. You buy that $230 turbo, that turbo is probably going to die on you within 2 months, and potentially that turbo is going to take out your engine. Because
and there's a lot more that goes into turbo choice and horsepower outcome than just how expensive it is. There's
a lot that goes into it. And like I said, I'm not trying to bash Donut. I like Donut, I watch a lot of their videos, but it's just painting Subarus in literally the worst light possible. Now,
running with it because it gets views.
And running with it, which I don't blame them. Like,
yeah.
I get
I mean,
it.
that is their job.
I get it.
Their job is to get views. They do it well.
Views equal money. I get it. I totally get where they're coming from on that aspect, but it also just paints these cars in the literal worst light possible. And then shops, companies, people like you and me, take the brunt of all the negative of it and just get...
because now we get flooded with questions from random people. Hey, if I even try and track this for days,
is it going to blow up?
Going to happen to me? Like, do I have to do all this extra stuff? I think I'm going to sell my car now because I plan on tracking it, but judging from Donut's videos, I can't do that because it's just going to blow up.
Now, moving on to the second engine that was killed, that was in high car when James...
I mean, that
one
developed a knock after he crashed it.
He came up on two wheels. When he came up on two wheels, it probably pushed all the oil in the pan. The oil pickup sucked all the air, cavitated the pump, starved the bearings of oil. Happens, okay? That's not really the Subaru's fault. When they got high car V2 and they had low car in there, both of those ones they sent back out for rebuild again. Now, here's the thing that kind of raises a red flag for me is what all are you replacing when you're doing these engine replacements? I don't know the shop. I don't know who's rebuilding these. Whenever you have an engine failure, specifically on Subarus, oil pump gets replaced, oil cooler gets replaced, AVCS cam gears, oil control valves, the oil pan should be replaced.
Basically anything that has cavities that you cannot easily get any of that stuff out of.
Replace it.
You gotta replace it.
Otherwise, you're going to end up in the exact same situation of having an engine failure because you still have potential metal debris. We rebuild a lot of engines for people, and anytime it's any type of metal found in the oil, bearing material, a bearing destroyed, every single oil component gets replaced, including the pan, because even though you clean a pan doesn't mean that you 100% got every piece of metal out, especially on aftermarket pans like IAG,
the
Killer
IAG
B that
ones
has
that
flaps.
they have on those cars, you can have little crevices that you're not able to get pieces out of. And guess what? You had a tiny little sliver of a bearing that slid its way in there, and as everything gets moving again, right after you rebuilt it, it's going to find its way back into the engine.
And it's a never-ending cycle. You'll continue to do this until you replace these components. And I feel like that can be said about any car out there when you have bearing failure.
That's why anytime we have like our personal cars, if you've seen our personal projects, anytime one of those suffers from an issue, or like the first time with my Legacy when it had an issue, I tore the whole thing down and inspected everything, able to trace it back to, okay, the oil pump, I had the screws come out of it, that cavitated the pump, I lost oil pressure. I've been able to monitor that, I might have stopped it.
It took out the engine.
There you go.
Now, yes, we're not gonna sit here and tell you that Subarus are perfect cars, because they're not. Okay, no car out there is perfect. Yes, Subarus do have their problems. Yes, they are extremely temperamental. But it's not like it's an impossible car. We tune, modify these things all day long. I build engines that can handle X amount of horsepower. X, Y, and Z tuners do it. There's so many builders and so many people. If you guys watched the last video, you guys seen Subarus compete in literally every level of motorsports. If Subarus were really that bad, A, there wouldn't be any aftermarket support for them because no one would be modifying them. And B, they wouldn't be competing in all of these different motorsports categories.
So with these engines, there's a known formula that most people follow for making power and making it reliably. Tanner's put out a lot of videos on that. You can find all of those. It's pretty easy. It's nothing crazy, but they did leave out certain components that are pretty common failure points.
Key components.
That are common failure points. We didn't see AOSs on the cars.
No AOS. We don't know if they have aftermarket pickups, but early model EJs are known for the oil pickups cracking at the base of the pickup where it mounts to the engine.
IAG's oil pans come with that, but they also, if I'm not mistaken, come with a spacer because the pan is deeper.
Yes.
And with that, the pickup normally would sit up here, but the pan is now there.
Like we said, there's no negative aspects towards Donut. We just want to come here to tell you guys that Subarus are not like they're being portrayed on Donut's channel, where they blow up consistently every single time. They're built reliably, they're built fine. You address the little issues, you modify them correctly, they're going to last you.
Yeah.
They're not terrible cars. If they were that terrible of cars, I wouldn't continue to be modifying them and building them. Matt wouldn't be. I would have sold this car years ago.
Would not be our first choice.
I have 3 of them at this point. If they sucked that much, I would have gotten rid of them and gone back to Nissans at this point. Is there anything else we want to touch on? Common reliability mods. They kind of skipped over those ones. Don't buy cheap parts for your car because you're just going to buy the expensive part later. And that's actually, I talked about this a little bit earlier. If you guys are basing your builds off of high-low, do more research please into your chassis or whatever your car is, because even though, like Matt said, they're just buying the most expensive version of whatever they can find out there.
There's no thought process going into that. They go on a website and they go, okay, let's
filter
switch pricing to
high.
high to low, and that's what we're buying for this, and low to high, and that's what we're buying for this
Like
car.
we said, TNs are not the go-to coilovers for Subarus. Garrett's for stock location, Garrett's are fantastic for rotated setups, but Garrett's for stock locations, yeah, I'm sure there's people out there that use them. They're not the go-to, or they're not the high-end version of what a typical Subaru person would use. Most of the parts that they're using on there,
like the abnormal part choice in general, where it's like the brakes.
Yes, which I feel like they should have done the brake video different. Like the low car should have got like WRX TR brakes, and high car should have gotten an STI Brembo swap.
Yeah.
Same with the transmissions. I feel like they're going to blow up the transmissions and blame the car on that one when WRX 5
blow up too, I guess.
WRX 5 speeds are known not to handle torque well.
I'm surprised they've lasted this.
I am also surprised after seeing them launch them so many times. I am also surprised that those 5 speeds are still holding up. You never know, but we just wanted to come on here and tell you guys, try to shed some light. If you guys have any doubt about anything that we're saying, you can go back on the channel literally anywhere. We've built an 05 STI, we've built the 17 STI with the EJ in it, we've built the 17 STI with the EG in it, we've built
05.
I said the 05 STI.
The
The BRZ, the Turbo BRZ, the 2014 WRX that's green speed compliant. That made 460 wheel horsepower on stock long block, stock 5 speed. Now we're doing the STI swap on the WRX. Matt has a whole bunch of like legacy BP chassis stuff on his channel. I'll link his channel down below as well. So we just wanted to explain that Subarus are not as they're being portrayed, and we hope that you guys can kind of look past that, because I don't want people to miss out. They're fantastic cars when built right, and I don't want people to see those videos and immediately be like, okay, I've seen them go through 4 or 5 engines at this point, which I've seen so many comments on their channel about.
Subarus are off my list.
I will never buy a Subaru. This has been the best never buy a Subaru advertisement type of thing ever. If you have considered getting one in the past, don't let that series sway you away from them. But that's all we got for you guys on this one. If there's anything that you think we missed, if there's anything that you guys got to say, drop it down below. Donut, if you see this, we don't hate you. If you need
we like you guys.
We like you guys. If you need help building Subarus, please feel free to reach out. It's literally all we do. So with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies.